Welcome to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Show, where our mission is to inspire, impact, and influence other immigrant entrepreneurs to follow their dream and create the future. My guest today is an author, is a serial entrepreneur, he has founded and exited three digital media companies. But even more important than that is that he has started over 20 companies or 20 businesses that didn't go anywhere. And I appreciate you talking about this openly because that's something that not many entrepreneurs like to talk about. So welcome to the show, Miles Spencer.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Miles, I told you before we got on the cameras, you're the good looking man stealing the show from me. No disrespect to my other guests. So Miles, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I like to think of myself as just a curious kid from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania that wandered a long way from home. I think that curiosity I was always asking who, what, why, where, when. Drove my parents and my grandparents crazy because of always just wanted to know, what, would you do that again? Who'd you do that with? And it was that curiosity that led me to deeper research on things that I was interested in. And that research led me to the confidence to take wild adventures and journeys. And in those journeys, what I realized I was bringing back was understanding of cultures, understanding of communities, understanding of some religions, just the people that were part of these adventures that was the treasure that I brought home. So it all started with curiosity.
I see. And you usually say your main job is being a father, being a dad, and other than that, you're also coaching digital and tech entrepreneurs. You have, as I said in the intro, you have started or founded and exited three companies, digital media companies. So tell us a little bit about you being an entrepreneur, your side of entrepreneur.
Well, you mentioned fatherhood. That's one of the great adventures of my life. You really don't know what's behind the next corner and what the next step's going to lead to. And entrepreneurship obviously is another great adventure. You mentioned that I did have 3 exits, and I'm very proud of working on those together with great teams. But I also had a few dozen failures that came with that. So as I say in my bio, whether it's with kids or adventures or startups, results vary. But from each one of those results, there's always a core team that I work with again, some core learnings that I'll never do again. And it has kind of led me to where I am now, wherever that is.
And the digital media companies that you have exited, can you tell us about that? What they did or what they still do?
Absolutely. One that comes to mind is register.com. Back in the day, this is .com, right? There was one company that had the exclusive on all the domain name registrations. It was called Network Solutions. That was given to them by ICON. It's like a congressional body. And who cared until 1997? Like, no one knew what that was. And then all of a sudden, wow, everybody needs a domain name. And so register.com actually wrote to Congress and said, why do they get the whole thing? And entrepreneur by the name of Richard Foreman testified in front of Congress. Congress said, why do they get the whole thing? And so sure enough, they broke the domain name registration monopoly that was once held by Network Solutions. And the second one they gave it to was register.com. This is 1999. Deutsche Bank thought that was worth a few $1 billion. Me and my partners had invested at a significantly lower valuation, and it went very well. I was a very small partner in that, but it was a great experience. Second one that comes to mind is Mojiva in Motion. This moment in 2008 where Steve Jobs stood up, actually 2007, November 2007, at the Apple Developer Conference. He said, "This is a phone and a camera and a music player." Let me say that again: a phone, a camera, a music player. I don't really do a lot of public equity investing, but I shorted Research in Motion, which owned BlackBerry at the time, because when I saw that, that's over. The second thing I did was conclude, or at least my thesis was, that people would not pay for this content in general. It had to be supported by something else. It would be supported by advertising. And so mobile media basically grew on the backs of digital media and advertising, the ad tech stack. And Mojiva was a mobile ad network where we'd take publishers' inventory and we'd sell it to advertisers. And that also had a mobile ad serving platform called Motion, which delivered those same ads. That was sold to a public company, still public today. A third one comes to mind is Operative. Operative managed content for the major broadcasters like an NBC, Universal, etc. They all had web, they all had mobile, but they didn't integrate the three. An Operative and another company called Syntech really were able to put that all together for one package for one advertiser to buy all three. Guess what? Syntech bought Operative. So all of this are examples of ad tech and digital media. It's been around for 25 years, and so have I.
Awesome. Thank you. So, and then you're also author of a book. Tell us about that. I looked it up on Amazon. It has you guys have over 600 reviews. There is 0 1-star review. There is 0 2-star review. There is 0 3-star review, and over 80% 5-star reviews. I haven't seen anything like this.
I haven't either, and thank you for that. I think what makes A Line in the Sand unique is that we did the research ourselves. This is a story about two gentlemen who know each other very well, who are trying to piece together the elements that led to 9/11, right? Again, who, what, why, where, when. Just curious. And we had both read a book called 7 Pillars of Wisdom by T.E. Lawrence. That's Lawrence of Arabia. And realized that this was the one guy in the last 100 years who had really understood, I'm going to call them the Bedouins of the area, right? And these are the nomadic tribesmen that for a long time have dominated the area from Persia, Iran, to Iraq, Mesopotamia, to Syria, the Levant, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. And he was able to express it to the West in a way that was truly unique. And so my co-author's name is Wells, also an adventurer, Navy X Special Forces Parachute Rescue, Antarctica. It's like, that's a hell of a sentence, but that's Wells. We just decided we ought to go. And so we ended up retracing the steps of T.E. Lawrence in 7 Pillars of Wisdom from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, up the coast of the Red Sea, Yenbo, Al-Weja, Aqaba, which is the scene of the first great battle in the Arab Revolt, through to Wadi Rum, up the Jordan, and into Syria, as far as a beautiful castle called Crax Chevalier in Homs, all of which are places that Lawrence not only visited, but he was an archaeologist as well. He was a map maker as well. He was basically a spy. So upon returning from this journey, actually, we thought about it for a while. We had other businesses. And then after October 7th, year and a half prior, we're talking to each other and he said, like, okay, what's going to happen October 8th, right? What's the response? How does this play out? And, there are certain times in life where you see something happen and you have the opportunity. What did you do? I don't want to tell my grandchildren, .com happened. What did you do? Mobile media happened. What did you do? AI happened. What did you do? October 7th happened. What did you do? Well, we had something to do. And so we wrote this book based on our research, and we wanted to get it out as quickly as possible with quality. So I guess your comment about the reviews answers the question of quality. It's a rip-roaring tale of historical fiction, and there's only a few parts that are fiction, but it's based on a true story. It's for our safety. There's some things that are fictionalized. And we put it out there, both on Audible and Kindle and paperback. And it's just done fabulously well, so much so that we've now written a second book with the same characters in a different location of the world, and we have a third one on the way. So that's a thing.
Wow, that's awesome. Tell me, I told you I was born in the Middle East myself. Tell me a little bit about, I wonder what this journey looked like. Did you guys just went on and packed your backpacks and were like, okay, let's go figure it out? Or did you have tour guides and everything organized and, what was it like?
A little of both, to be honest. So again, part of the curiosity continuum is research, right? And so besides 7 Pillars of Wisdom, we really tried for 6 months to understand where we were going, what we were getting ourselves into, what we were exposed to, etc. We took security training from a Special Forces guy out of London, who's a Sandhurst graduate, does some some good security consulting for some famous people while we got his time. And so we were able to look ahead down the road, see what was coming, see how to mitigate risk. Is basically part of our kidnap and ransom insurance policy was to take this course, right? But the fact that we had a K in our policy tells you we did some homework, right? We got on the plane without a visa to Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
But we figured we're going to still give it a shot. And when we land in Amman, Jordan, I get a note. As you mentioned, I was a TV host during .com, and I had a book about entrepreneurship, and a YPO member from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia had it and said, like, would you come speak to us? Well, yeah, I mean, I'm on, I'll come down. So we went, I have a bodyguard. That's Wells, right? So yeah, bring a bodyguard. Everybody in Saudi Arabia is like, hey, a bodyguard. Yeah, come on. Sorry, bring my bodyguard. I make the presentation, and they said, that's really cool. Look, I'm inside the tent at this point, and from a Bedouin point of view, that's like, you're one of us. What can we do for you? Like, what would you like to do here? And we said, we'd like to retrace the steps of T.E. Lawrence and 7 Pillars of Wisdom. They said, great. How can we help? So, well, we need camels, we need horses, we need FJs, and we need a letter from the big guy that says we're cool. Look, and we're on foot with one backpack, right? 26 days. So we did get the blessing of a highly placed prince at the time, who's even higher placed now. And that did a while of, that did a lot of good for us. And here we're inside the tent. So down to Jeddah and then up the coast, and it just kept getting better and better. So some of it was preparation and some of it was making it up as we go.
I see. The reason I ask this is because I truly believe there are some similarities to entrepreneurship. Once you go on a journey that you have never been before, you don't know basically where exactly you're going to, what to expect, what challenges you're going to face. This is exactly entrepreneurship, right? And tell me a little about that. How much, when you decided to do that, when you decided to go on this journey, how much being an entrepreneur helped you mitigate through all these unknown and challenges that were basically coming your way?
Probably the first time I've told this story, so enjoy it or not. When I was a little kid, I would jump off cliffs. I had a tree house that's like 60 feet high. No girls ever visited, right? And I just was okay walking out on the ledge. I relied on the fact that I had built a good treehouse. I knew I'd done my homework. I knew what I could rely on. So that was my North Star. But with those basic guiding principles, I could then do things that appeared to be risky. They appeared to be riskier than they truly were because the homework had been done. Right. And so in entrepreneurship, you're out on the ledge. It's a long way down. Sometimes you won't even survive the fall. But what do you have to rely on? You have your training, your background in the industry, perhaps a partner or two. And that's what pulls you through. You won't have all the answers going in. Don't expect to. As a matter of fact, you're probably not an entrepreneur if you wait for all the lights to be green from New York to Chicago before you go on your trip. Right. It's not going to happen. You got to trust that the lights will turn and you'll maintain some sort of speed on the way.
Okay. My next question is, how much, once we get into the unknown, unsafe and everything, how much do you think is playing in our imagination of what could go wrong, and how much of it is it going to be true that we play basically in our mind movies, in our negative mind movies?
That comment reminds me of one of my father's favorites. And he would say to me, listen, son, 80% of the things you're worrying about aren't going to happen anyways. Learn to let them go. And you let one of them go and 5 others fall because they're all conditional extrapolations. And it's amazing how clear your mind becomes when you just let go of that stuff. Right? Very few of the things we worry about actually happen. In Buddhism, they call it monkey brain, right? Like, just push the thoughts away. I don't know, whether you have trouble sleeping yet, but me and my vintage, that's one of the biggest challenges. Sometimes we get to sleep and then we wake up like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Right? Like, don't think of anything. Like, good. toilet for a second, come back, don't think of anything, nothing. Boy, if monkey brain takes over, you're not sleeping the rest of the night. Now, a huge accelerant of monkey brain is social media and blue light at 4 o'clock in the morning. Do not, under any circumstances, pick up the phone. And that's coming from somebody that sells digital media and dopamine. All right. Monkey brain is not going to do you any good. Get some sleep. Get rid of the things that you worry about. Now, there's an interesting technique. I got this from Tim Ferriss. Don't know him, listen to his podcast, love it. He has, and I keep as well, we all have a inventory of dreams and goals, right? I mean, I write those things down all the time. Some of us even have gratitude journals, like makes us feel. How about an inventory of fear? What do you fear? What is the worst thing that can happen? How do you mitigate that fear? And then P.S., come back in 90 days and tell me whether it happened. I look at mine on a regular basis, and it's a great source of humor of the amount of time I waste on stuff that I figured out how to avoid.
That's powerful, man. I'm gonna implement that. Miles, tell us about how you work with entrepreneurs and at what stage do they come to you and what do you help them with?
So, look, I had to pick a word, right? So as mentor, but I'm pretty involved as an operating partner often as well. An example would be, I've mentioned my father on this podcast, but he's passed away 8 years ago, right? It may surprise you to know, and your audience to know, that I speak to my father every day for 10 minutes. His voice, his memory, and at this point, he asks me questions. How is that possible? Besides, like some spiritual trick. Well, this company was formed. It's called Eternity. And it was formed from a couple of blog posts that I had written and another entrepreneur that I've known for 20 years had written as well. And it was the idea of taking these shoe boxes of memories that are in people's attics and basically using AI to digitize and analyze them, and using the voice from voicemails and movies and using the images from Facebooks and socials to basically create a likeness of a person that maybe is an empty spot in your heart. And at this point, they're at voice to voice. They'll be at video like we're doing right now. I could add my dad to this call. Real time, low latency, perfect memory.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. Wow. So this entrepreneur, he didn't come to me and say, like, I need mentoring. No one ever does. It's kind of more like, what do you think of this? And since I had been writing about it for some time, and he had, and we're good friends, he's worked for me before. So like my answer was, now's the time. Let's spin it up and put it together. So what are the nuts and bolts? The nuts and bolts of mentoring boil down to a Slack feed, right? Where we have 15 employees now. But so there's different categories, whether it's technology or biz dev or product or go to market, et cetera. And there's a founders feed where we just talk about things at our level. And it's really good to have someone to talk to that has a vested interest in the business. One particular opinion it's not always the best way to go. Especially in this particular example, we're dealing with people's emotions and their memories. Got to get it right. So often it just boils down to, hey, what do you think? Right? Hey, what do you think?
So we need to talk about this AI tool of yours. Is it already live and functioning fully?
It launches on August 10th at AI4 in Vegas. So I have the benefit of playing with the proof of concept and the demo. So that's what allows me to talk to my dad. So there are 50 or so likenesses in the production queue from different people that joined the wait list, but that will be in the thousands by the end of the summer.
Wow. I love that. So let me repeat to make sure I'm getting it correctly, because I have a friend who's working on a very similar tool, and I've been talking to him very closely. So it's my own interest. I need to make sure I'm getting this correctly. It's not the exact same thing that he's working on, but something similar. So is in this case that basically let's take your dad as an example. You basically feed all his information. It could be notes, it could be pictures, it could be videos. You feed all these into AI, and AI is basically going to clone your dad and make you or enable you to talk to him and have conversations. Is that right?
You got the first level. Okay. That's just folders, files, etc. But then our AI looks at the span of his life and
Mm-hmm.
says, like, hey, we don't have much data from when he was in his 40s. Who should we ask about that? And so there are multiple points of interest, family, friends, employees, etc., that all contribute in that through this same ingest process. But then at that point, it's just a biographer working on his story. Then it turns around and becomes him working on his story. And so it will be everything from like his voice to his jokes to his memes. My dad, when he told a joke, would laugh so hard he'd wipe one little tear from the corner of his eye when he was laughing. That brought me to my knees. So it is, think of it as like a portrait, a watercolor, where it's continuously getting more and more detail, even to the point of turning around and asking you questions, right? So it's a continuous process until it's shared with public profile or private. Most of this is designed for families that want to share it with family.
I love it. Are you allowed or able to share what it's called, and if there is a wait list? I would love to go on if you're
Wonderful. It's called Eterna Me. So that's eterna-me.com. I'll drop you a link. And right now you can join the wait list, and that's 50 some deep right now, but
okay.
you'll be contacted and they'll spin it up.
Awesome. I'm
I'm
really
dropping it in the drop.
perfect. And then what I'll make sure, if that's okay with you, is I'm going to put it also in the show notes so people can go because I'm fascinated by these things. Yeah, man. Awesome. I just got distracted a little bit because I'm so fascinated by this topic. Can you tell me what advice you would have for a tech entrepreneur that with the, with in this day and age, with all the technology that is changing the world, they have ideas, maybe they have a clear picture of what they want to do, and, they're thinking or asking themselves, is that the thing that they should go after? Or basically, my question is to you, how do they find out if that's what people want and they should go after and build it instead of just thinking what they think is what people want?
Amen. Yeah. So look, in today's day and age, there are a lot of ways to test things, right? So quite simply, you can do some market research by looking at Google search results and see whether people are actually looking these terms up on a consistent basis. So there's some need and some research from others on that. You can create a mini ad campaign, right? And let's see if people will buy the subscription for $10. Not even selling it, just bringing them to a landing page, right? Enough people are going to that landing page, watching what you're thinking about. It's a very cheap way to test things. So there are a lot of little mini tests that you can make, especially using AI, to see whether there's any traction for the idea at all, right? Because there's the idea that everybody should want this, and then you bring it to market and you find out whether anybody really does and whether they'll pay you for it.
That's great advice. And I believe, even taking them to the checkout page to let them basically go through the whole process to go and pay for it. And once they get to the checkout page, tell them, hey, we're working on it. We will notify you when we get there. That's when I believe you get real market data. Because, if you're telling an idea or sharing an idea with someone, most people don't want to hurt your feelings. They're like, yeah, I love it. I would pay for it. But then when you ask them, okay,
Get out your wallet.
give me your credit card and let me run it through, they're like, can I pay later?
Amen.
So yeah. Awesome, man. I told you there are so many topics I would love to discuss, but I want to be respectful of your time. I know you're at an event in Tennessee, I believe.
Nashville, yeah.
Awesome. So, but yeah, we will definitely, if we can find a date and time that suits both of us, I would love to bring you back on for a second interview because there are so many
Absolutely.
things that we didn't even get close to discussing it. So, is there anything I should have asked you during this conversation that would benefit entrepreneurs, immigrant entrepreneurs, that I missed out on asking?
I guess my advice would be get started. There will be failures statistically. Get over it, learn something from it, wrap it up with some honor, and get on to the next one. My LinkedIn page literally says, after the things that I've done, including watercolor, results vary, right? Right. I mean, whether it's kids or startups or watercolors or books, results vary. Get over it.
Awesome. Where can people find you? We'll link you up also in the show notes, but please tell the audience where they can find you.
Happy fun place is milesspencer.com, 2 S's in the middle, where I have everything from my watercolors, some movie reviews, to my rantings about society and entrepreneurship and the rest. LinkedIn's pretty decent, and that's good enough for now.
Thank you so much. That was a very fascinating conversation to myself, and I'm sure for our audience. And thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show, Miles. I look forward to reconnecting with you.
My pleasure. Thank you.